Percy,
Yes.
can I ask you something?
Sure. What is it?
Well, what kind of DAW do you use for your music?
Well, I actually just switched from Logic Pro to Studio One.
Studio One, okay, and is it any good? Or
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Yeah?
Why? Why do you ask?
Well, you know, I've also been using Logic Pro for a while now, but I'm actually seriously thinking about switching to another DAW.
Right.
You know, because I've heard there are better ones out there with more features and stuff. So can you give me some advice? What is the best DAW? And do you think I should switch or just stick with Logic? What do you think?
Well, that is actually two questions. Let's start with the first one. So what is the best DAW? Well, let me say this. There are a lot of very good options to choose from. So there is Logic Pro and Studio One as mentioned, but there is also Pro Tools, there is Digital Performer, there is a Reaper, Bitwig, which is a relatively newer one, Reason, Sonar, Cubase, there is FL Studios, Ableton Live. You know, I could go on.
And they're all good.
And they're all good. Yes, I mean, I haven't used all of them personally, but I think it's safe to say that they're all very good, yes.
Okay, but what is the best one?
Well, here's the thing. I believe there is no one best DAW. It basically all comes down to what your preferences are. So if you really want to switch to another DAW, or if you don't own one already and you would like to get one, and you're wondering what would be the best option for you, well, my advice would be to first ask yourself what it is exactly what you want to use it for.
For making some music, dude.
Sure, funny guy, but I mean, are you a singer-songwriter and you only want to record some new ideas? Or are you a producer and you only want to mix and produce some stuff? Do you only want to use some, let's say, conventional instruments like a guitar or a piano? Or do you also want to use some software instruments? Or do you only want to use some virtual instruments? Do you want to make electronic music? You know, ask yourself these kind of questions and also find out if there are some really specific things that you need your DAW to be able to do. And then go from there. You know, do some research on the various DAWs out there and make your decision based on that. I have to say though, that yes, of course, there are differences between the different DAWs, but the differences mainly are going to be found in the interface. To put it simply, the way to get from point A to point B may differ, but in most cases, and I'm talking maybe 99.9% of all cases.
Really? 99.9?
Okay, maybe 99.8%. Anyway, in most cases, any of these DAWs will get you to point B. And yes, depending on the task you're trying to perform, some DAWs may get you there faster than others because they might have some features that make it a bit easier to perform that particular task. Other DAWs may have some other features that make it easier to perform some other tasks. You know, so bottom line, yes, they may differ in the way to get there, but in most cases, any of these DAWs will enable you to do whatever it is you need to do. And this will probably make even more sense if you think about let's say, the core purpose of a DAW. What is it for actually? What does it do?
Well, I guess you're about to tell me.
Good guess. Okay, a DAW, or at least the way we mean it in this context. It is a piece of software. And like many pieces of software, it is trying to emulate something. And what it is trying to emulate is recording equipment. Okay? And even though many of them are very, very, very advanced with a lot of amazing features and some great new tricks, for most people, in its core essence, what you need a DAW for is basically just a few things.
Just a few things.
Just a few things. Now, first of all, obviously, you need to record stuff. And whether it is an analog instrument like your voice or a guitar, or if it is a virtual instrument or a sample, you need a DAW to capture all of that and record it independently, so onto their own tracks. Now, second of all, you need to be able to mix your recordings. So you need to be able to individually control things like volume and panning of all the different instruments. And then you want to make some enhancements, maybe by using some EQ or compression or things like that. And finally, of course, you may want to add some effects, like a reverb or a delay or some other effects. And that is basically it. I mean, essentially, that is all you're going to be using a DAW for, you know? And all these hyper advanced new features and tricks can be very appealing. And don't get me wrong, in some cases they can also be very useful. But the point I'm trying to make is that for many of us, including myself, and maybe especially myself, it is very easy to get distracted by all these shiny new features and tricks. And this may cause you to make a wrong decision when it comes to choosing a new DAW, for instance. So if you're looking for a new DAW, my advice is to, as much as possible, move your attention away from all those slick looking new features that you're probably not even going to use anyway, and first focus on what it is that you really need. Okay, now on to the second question. So switching to another DAW. Now, if this is something that you really want to do, I mean, if you're really convinced that you really want to switch to another DAW, I mean, go for it. You know, and in that case, the same advice implies. So first look at what it is that you really need and then make a decision based on that. But first let me say this. I mean, if you already own a DAW.
Yes, I told you, I already have a DAW,
okay.
Logic Pro.
Okay, Logic Pro. Logic Pro is an amazing DAW that enables you to do probably everything you will ever need a DAW to do and more. You know, and the same would be true if you own Pro Tools, or if you own Sonar, you know, or Cubase, or, you know, all of them. I mean, they're all amazing pieces of software that'll provide you with probably more than enough tools to do whatever you need to do. And of course, it is possible that you may have a very good reason to actually switch to another DAW. I mean, for instance, let's say that there is a feature that you really need to have, and the DAW you already own doesn't have it, and there is no way that you can get your DAW to do what you need to do, which, by the way, is very unlikely. But let's say that that's the case. Then again, by all means, choose another one.
But you also switched to another one.
Yes, I did. Okay, my situation was this. My old computer was getting old. You know, so I felt I really needed a new one. So what I did was I bought a PC. You know, so I actually switched from Mac to PC. You know, and I'm not going to get into why I did that, or why you should do the same, or why you should absolutely not do the same. That's a whole other discussion for another video maybe, you know. But as you may know, Logic Pro doesn't run on PC. It doesn't run on Windows, you know. So as I made the decision to switch to PC, I had no other choice but to also switch to another DAW. Unfortunately, because believe me, if for some reason my new computer would have been a Mac computer, or if Logic Pro would run on Windows, there's not a shred of doubt in my mind I would be using Logic Pro right now. And why? Because Logic Pro is the best DAW in the world? No. Because as I said, I don't believe there is one best DAW. You know, and probably there are some DAWs that have a lot of great new features that Logic Pro doesn't have. You know, and Logic Pro might have a feature or two that all the other ones don't have. I actually don't even know. And I don't really care. You know, what I do care about is that Logic Pro does everything I need it to do and a bit more. You know, so why would I spend hundreds of euros or dollars or yens or pounds or whatever on a new DAW if I already own one that works for me? And also, I've been using Logic Pro for years, you know, so I really know my way around it. Let's say I have a new musical idea and I want to record something. No problem. You know, I know exactly how to create a new song. I know exactly how to set it up. I know how to create new tracks, how to record. You know, I can do all of these things without even having to think about it. You know, so I can fully focus on creating new music, which in the end is what it's all about, isn't it? Now, as I said, I just recently switched to Studio One. And I have to say that even though I haven't been using it for very long, I can already tell that it is also a very good DAW. you know. But because I just started using it, whenever I want to do something, I continually find myself reading the manual, you know, searching for another tutorial on the internet. You know, there's a lot of trial and error. You know, because I still have to invest a lot of time and energy in figuring out how this program works. You know, and this is time and energy that otherwise could have been spent on creating new music. So, in the end, of course, whatever you decide, it's all up to you. And if you do see an advertisement about a DAW that has the most amazing new features that you just cannot resist, you know, just go for it. And I really do hope you'll have a wonderful time using it and that it will inspire you to do great things with it. Because to be honest, I have to say that that can be one of the advantages of getting new equipment. It can be very exciting and it can also be very inspiring. But if you want to make a more rational, let's say a more sensible decision, again, my advice would be to first find out what it is that you really need, take a good look at what you already have. If necessary, do some research on the various options you have and then make a decision based on that. And that's it.
Well, you might have a point there. Thanks.
Okay, well, I hope it helps. You know, whatever you do decide, promise me you'll go have a lot of fun creating new music. That is what it's all about. You know, I want to thank you all for watching and I will talk to you soon.